Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. It's 2020, and this is the debut show for our Power of One with Eileen and I. How's it going, Eileen?
Hey, it's going great. Happy 2020, everybody.
2020 vision. So I think this is going to be a great year.
It's gonna be a great year.
I'm expecting the best ever.
I know, I heard you saying that every year you expect the best ever, and there's no better way to be than always expecting the best every year of wherever you are, you know?
Yeah.
It just gets better and better and better and better.
A few little adjustments there. Yeah, I think so. We got a new thumbnail, and I've been trying to sort of change out stuff and give it a new, fresh look.
I love the image. It's kind of like a bubble of light that it's like all these rays coming together from the rainbow and then forming one bubble of energy. And behind it, I don't know if people can see it, but it's the earth in a puzzle, in puzzle pieces, right?
Yeah, like Biker Babe was talking last night. And like our book covers got the puzzle piece on it. When I was thinking of that, I knew it was going to go international from the feedback you'd gotten from people. And I wanted to make sure that it was sort of a symbol everybody would recognize. And a puzzle piece is sort of, no matter what language, you know that shape. You
just know that shape, a piece of every single person. I haven't heard the love stream yet. It's going to be tomorrow morning because I had to get up and go to an art fair very early. So that's my tomorrow morning listening. So I'll hear about Biker and was she saying like everybody's a piece of the puzzle?
Like we all have our pieces of the puzzle, and that when we come together, we create the vision of the whole. So
how beautiful, and how true, how very, very true is that.
Yeah, and it really ties in, to what I was saying about the pixels, that we're all sort of like pixels of this image.
Yeah, that you look at a pixel up close, it doesn't look like anything.
Right, and each one is so unique, and back to the unbiased and on the fence thing, it's good to allow someone to be their own pixel, not to push or judge or expect everyone to look like you, because if you're a green pixel and you turn everybody into you, then you're going to have a solid green image, right? It's not going to be...
It's going to get kind of boring, like, okay, all the pixels are now green and shapeless. They're all circles
right.
Because I said so. I've been reading more on Buddhism and that idea of the enlightenment. The individual becomes enlightened so that the whole group can become enlightened, so that the whole universe can become enlightened. But it starts, as Confucius says, with the individual. It's the individual changing, which changes everything and all. Instead of, and it's like the more confidence you have, the easier it is to let people just be them.
Right. And to celebrate the diversity.
Yeah. And the less confidence you have in your own beliefs, the more you want to make other people hold them as well.
Right.
Because you're not really confident about them. So to feel safe and secure, you need everybody around you to be believing the same thing that you do.
That's totally true. And when I think back at when I felt that way, I don't believe that way anymore. So it's sort of funny if I got everybody to believe that way, we're like, wait, everybody.
Yeah, it's like, change your mind. Don't listen to me from 3 years ago. I've changed my mind since then.
Exactly. So yeah, I know it's hard enough to, worry about yourself and to be on your own journey, and not really worry, but we've all got our own journey that we're working on, and that's enough, really,
It is enough. Well, that's the Confucian approach, which was a philosophy, and it became kind of a religion, that if you take care of the individual, then the whole world falls in place. It's your ideas that are important. It's your enlightenment that's important. It doesn't mean like the Ayn Rand thing where you just don't take care of anybody else around you, but it's like worry about you treading the enlightened path. And if
Hmm.
you can tread the enlightened path, the rest of the world will follow you. The rest, it'll just fall in place.
Right. Let it be, as they say.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because they say that about evil too. They're like, let it be because eventually they're either going to fall away or join you.
Hmm.
That's the way things happen in a big way, like the end of slavery and votes for women and getting children out of the mines and things like that. Eventually, they just have to join you. It's like there's
Yeah.
no other choice.
Think how much stuff has changed, in our lifetime. Things are changing,
Constantly.
and the best approach is to just love, to help people when, within your little sphere of influence. Love people, help people, be there for people, and then things that are outside of your control, out there, the chaos that's out there, is what was it? Jim Self was talking the rose, those things that's beyond sort of, the theater. You can observe it, but you have no control over it. Why let it worry you? Why let it bother you? Just let it be, and then worry with what's going on right around you. And if everyone
Yep.
did that, then
If
that would cover
everybody did
everything.
that, then the entire group ascends
Yeah,
because everybody's taking care of their little patch of reality in
yeah,
a really wonderful way. I
yeah.
thought I picked up all the squeaky toys, but I think they found another one. Oh, yes. I'll have to get that before the meditation starts. They got
Okay.
lots of squeaky toys for Christmas. I'm starting to hear squeak, squeak under my chair, like a little mouse, right?
Yeah, I was wondering if the way these mics, these Yetis work, I wasn't sure if it came from here. I'm like, is that?
Oh, did you hear? Meep, meep?
Yeah, I heard a little squeak. I thought maybe it was here though.
Somebody's got a squeaky under the table. Okay. Yep. Oh, well, you guys just ignore that. Everybody loves animals here, so they won't care
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, no problem at all.
But yeah, what else? What else? It's been 2 weeks and it went like really fast and really slow at the same time. I had that sense of time slowing down, and then boom, the next thing I knew it was over. It was like, oh, time to do another show. It's 2020.
I felt the same way. It was like, on one hand, I was like, oh, I got to get that thumbnail done. And it was like, oh, I don't need to get it done. It's like, I got plenty of time. And then, like, today, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't get the thumbnail done. I
I
better get
didn't
on
send
it.
I was supposed to send you pictures, and it's like the day before, maybe even yesterday. I'm like emailing you all these pictures, like left it to the last possible minute, right?
Yeah. And that reminded me that I needed to do one for the love stream last night, too.
I
So I'm
like
like,
that
oh,
one. I like it with the pink heart and the heart in the middle. It's nice.
oh,
Are you
thank
going
you
to do
so
one
much.
with Michelle Wolf and with Sherry? Are you going to change like every January you change the thumbnails?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, definitely.
Makes it all fresh, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, and it makes it easier going back through the videos because now I have close to 700 of them now.
Oh
So,
my God, then you'll know
like,
what year you're looking
right.
at, right? You go, "Whoops, I'm in
Exactly.
another year now."
Exactly. Yeah. So at least if I start it now, it won't be so bad. And then Sherry had the idea, great idea. She goes, you should do like a throwback Thursday where you go back to 2017 and post some of those videos about the Law of One. And,
Oh
and I'm like, that's
yeah.
such a great idea because
Just
so
do a
many people didn't
throwback
see
Shane
those.
show.
Yeah. And just premiere it, hang out in the chat, and
Even
then
one
just,
of the IMs would be
uh,
refreshing to hear again.
right.
On a throwback Thursday, pick one of the 24 or 28, however many there are, 32. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I've been through that series twice, and I think it's time to do it again. I find I get a lot out of that series if I listen to every single video in sequence, driving, sleeping, working,
Yeah.
and just let my brain absorb it.
Yeah. I always encourage people that haven't listened to it yet, just listen to the first one because it's sort of, it's like it's a fractal. The whole playlist is sort of a fractal. I mean, it really says everything in the first one, but
Yeah,
then
I
it like
guess it
goes
does.
over it and it really digs deeper and deeper within it, and you just get a better understanding after you work your way through the whole thing. But
Saint
really, the
Germain,
main
right?
premise
Saint
is,
Germain, 1930s maybe, or
yeah,
40s, was it?
isn't it amazing that it was so long ago?
Almost
You
100
know,
years ago.
yeah. And I
And I
think
can't,
they even say something about something happening in 100 years.
they do. And so
Yeah.
does, I'm reading Alice Bailey. She's came after Madame Blavatsky. She was with Rudolf Steiner, the Theosophists. And really, the people who set up the United Nations are following some of those early theosophical writings.
Hmm.
And she said in her channeled writings from the Tibetan, in 100 years, blah, 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 and in 100 years, and I'm like, that's now. because
Right.
I'm reading something that was written in 1920, and it's 2020.
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, so I feel like, oh my gosh, pay attention. This is a message for you because you are the future. As they're writing it, going in 100 years, this will happen and this could happen, and it's like our eyes and ears are 100 years later picking it up.
Yeah. And it's the same way with the law of one. Ra talks about in 30 years. And that was like 82 ish.
82, 92,
Yeah.
oh, 12, so around 2012.
Yeah. And around 2012 is when people started noticing things starting to
Oh
shift
yeah,
and change and happen. And here we are, we're experiencing it.
yeah.
And although it doesn't move quite quickly enough for some people that feel impatient about it, things are
I've been
happening all
thinking
the
about
time.
that because Anita Morjani wrote a new book that I haven't read yet called "Is This Heaven?" And that's going to like upset a lot of people, especially empaths who are feeling the pain of the collective, like when it's war and hunger and, the inequalities
Hmm.
of the collective. So
Right.
they'd be like, heck no, there's no way this is heaven. But I think her perspective, because I did her course in July, is it is what you think it is. It is what you make it. So for some, this matrix, because it's so fluid and it responds to you, it can be someone's heaven. But equally, right down the hallway, it could be somebody's hell,
I
depending
couldn't
on
agree more.
how they see it and respond to it.
And that's really what I've been trying to get through to at least our little group, is how you can shift and switch your perspective just a little bit of how you see things. Like Biker Babe was talking last night about, these attacks coming in, and I'm like, well, if you shift it from an attack to a challenge, you know what I mean? Like this
And
is,
which ones was she talking about? Because there's a lot
she
going
was
on right now.
You're right, and a lot of people feel like they're being attacked right now in all sorts of ways, either to their health, to their finances, to, like she was talking about, before ESETI, how, she getting to ESETI was quite a challenge for her, and I know it was for quite a
It was
few
for a lot
people,
of people.
and even getting to Ketchum, Idaho, I
And
heard the
then
same
Jerry
thing.
said
It's
that getting to the Mandela Effect conference was a real challenge for a lot of
right,
people.
right, but you can shift that from feeling like you're being attacked, because that sort of puts you in like a victim mentality, right? So, and that also puts you in this realm of uncertainty. Like, will I
Fear.
make it through this attack? Yeah, it's more fearful.
And then you emote the fear emotions, and
And
then
then it
you get
reflects it back to
more
you.
attack feelings. It's a what do they call that? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
The more fear you put out, the more things that are fearful that happen to you.
So it's not saying it's not happening.
No.
It's just, and saying it's an attack is a total valid point of view. I'm not even saying that it's not a valid point of view, because it will be an attack if that's your point of view with it.
Yeah,
It
that's what it
will
feels like.
it will give you a feedback of that being attacked, sort of thing. But if you move to it's a challenge, I've got higher help that's looking out for me. That's sort of my whole philosophy with just being here in general. People call this a prison planet, and I totally get that. That's another valid point of view. But I
Yeah, I
also
get it.
remember
I
being
totally
in school, and it was like a microcosm of here. I felt
But
like, why am
school
I
felt like a
here
prison too. You couldn't
with
do
all
what
these
you wanted.
mean
Yeah.
kids? They're so mean. They're so rude. They're so violent, and they're so just like all of the things that I think about the whole world. I got in school, and then you're forced to go there. I felt like it was a
Yeah.
prison.
For
So
many children it is, if they're
yeah.
creative.
So
And
I
they're
grew
told
up
what to
feeling like
think, and
that.
they're told to sit down and don't move, don't leave your chair, and only think about this subject right now, and
And
that
raise your
that can
hand
be
if you
very
want to
painful.
speak, and don't daydream looking out the window. Pay attention to your studies. I mean, it's
Yeah, it
you know.
is a mind prison.
It is. So if you think of that, and then you think, well, if the just life in general feels like a prison, can I shift it to looking at it like a classroom? I'm here to learn something. I'm here to
Yeah, because a lot of
experience
people
something.
are like, you got to get up, and, it's not a 9 to 5 job anymore with the commuting. It's a 12-hour a day job, and you got to get up and go where they want you to go and do what they want you to do just to pay for food and a roof. So to
Yeah,
many, they feel like a slave, like a financial slave to the system. I totally get it.
I get
But,
it too.
when you're talking about heaven, that state of perfection, of being, it's a state of being. It's not a place. It's a state of perfection and peace and grace. And a lot of people see New Earth as that state of heaven, and that is Shambhala. That is Nirvana. That is all the places that all the various different religions have described as the state of perfection, of where God would be
Hmm.
in a state of perfection, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, I know we're ascending individually and as a group. I can feel it, I can see it. I'm there, guys. But are we ready to go from here to a state of perfection? Are we ready for heaven? Are we ready right now, the way we think and feel and act, to go from life in 3D Earth to perfection? And most people will say, no, I don't think I am ready for perfection yet. I think I need a few more lessons in schools and classrooms between here and
I
heaven.
mean, sure, we'd love for it to just bam, we're there, right?
But are we ready for it?
Right. If we were,
Can
we
we
would
deal
have
with
it.
it?
That's sort of my whole point with this. If we were ready, we would have it, wouldn't we?
If we were ready, we'd be there. Isn't that
Right.
interesting?
Yeah, it's a catch-22 because people get so impatient. They wait for a certain date, it comes along, and nothing happens, and they're like, oh God, what's
Back
going
to
on
the
now?
grind.
Yeah, back to the grind.
Daily
I thought we were going to
grind.
be out of here, and they get discouraged. But all of that is like sort of a trap to keep you, from reaching it. It's like a double-edged
Yeah,
sword,
it is. It stops, it slows down the ascension progress. So, I have a 19-year-old, right? And she was texting me when social media was going crazy with World War III, right? And she was like, Mom, Google World War III and see what you find on social media. And of course, the mainstream media was going, Donald Trump has started World War III. And then Twitter was doing memes, going, me and my buddies on our way to World War III, and like their Jeep is rolling over in the sand. And did you see some of the memes? Did you see some of the humor?
No.
Twitter was like on fire with World War III humor, and it was making me giggle. And I thought, thank God that we've got something to say, hey guys, you've thrown your world wars at us since I was a little kid, and I'm almost 60 now. I ducked and covered when I was 7 under my little school desk, knowing that those nukes from the Russians couldn't get me as long as I was under my school desk. So, I had to tell her about Iran and Syria and the Cold War. And I even went into, what was it? What was that called with Kennedy? Bay of Pigs,
Hmm.
Havana, Cuba. And I said, I don't know if it's just when things need to be rearranged, like they need to get rid of a few pesky leaders that are stopping them from doing what they want to do in a region,
Right.
or if they're running out of money and they got to say, guys, we're increasing your taxes 100 billion because we need more bombs and more walls and we're going to protect you. So I said, there's a little bit of both going on constantly. But
Yeah.
the end of the day, you got a bunch of kids running around going, World War III? Are we in World War III? Mom, hey, I'm texting you, Mom. Are we in World War III now? Seriously.
I should have put hashtag World War III on there. Just
It's all over the place. If just
yeah.
go to Twitter, and I'm just so glad that people somewhere made light of their constant, they're like the little boy that cried wolf now. Their constant scaremongering of this is it, this is the big one, guys, you know?
Right.
And it
Yeah,
never
and
is. It never is the big one.
that's funny you said that because I was just thinking like just in the last 20 years, having the whole Y2K scare and
Oh, do you
the
remember
world's going to come
that?
in and all the power plants are going to go offline, all the internet's going
Get
to go down,
water.
and
Put water in your garage. Yeah, because nothing's
1201,
going to work.
nothing.
Nothing.
It's just business as usual. You know, there's no way they can replace all the computer chips. They should have thought about this, and you know what I mean. And I was like, oh, really? That
Planes
would
will
be
fall
pretty
from the
scary.
sky. Yes. Red
Yeah.
lights will never turn green. Everything's on a computer chip now.
And then the 2012, thing, and
And the
I do
weapons of
believe
mass
it.
destruction,
Yeah,
so,
so many things
and then,
constantly.
so after just like a 2-minute texting chat, she's like, oh, okay, cool. Bye. Got to go back to work, whatever. She's like over it. It was like, is this for real? Because they're younger than us. They haven't been through it about 5 times already.
Right. I was just thinking that. Yeah, when you were mentioning the Bay of Pigs and stuff like that, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'd heard of it, but it was just a little bit before I was
I
worried
was a
about
little
that.
kid during that, and it was very serious to my dad. It was nuclear war for
Right.
sure with Russia over the Bay of Pigs.
Like I remember Jimmy Carter as a kid. like barely, you know.
Yeah,
And
he was
then,
negotiating peace with Anwar Sadat and Begin, and then we had that big hostage takeover of the Iranian embassy. That's when I was living in the Middle East. I was 13, and my dad got me an Irish passport, and I said, "Oh, I'm Irish now." And he said, "Yeah, when you're flying, you are, because they tend to look for American citizens. They're not looking for Irish citizens." So that's when I got my dual nationality.
oh,
It
pretty
was
slick,
Jimmy Carter and Iran, the embassy hostage thingy,
right?
which I look back now and I found out it was not settled until 20 minutes after Ronald Reagan became president. And then boom, they went, "Here you go, have the hostages back." And I'm like, what? That seems a bit contrived now, you know?
Yeah. Now,
Back
didn't
then,
that?
I
How
didn't
did
think
that
so.
tie into? Because I know when I was, I guess, early '80s. I guess it was. It seems like it was the Cuban Missile Crisis or something that was going on. What was that all? Was that
Yeah,
serious stuff going on? Or?
I know that was big in the 60s, the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Oh, it
and then it was
was. It
big
was.
again in the 80s, I think, with
Oh,
the
okay.
all the immigrants coming, not immigrants, what they call them, they were coming off of boats into Florida, weren't they?
Right from Cuba. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like whenever the powers that manipulate us need something done, that's when they pull out the big guns and they start scaring people in a big way.
Right.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if they need a reshuffle of the economy. They need to change the economy. The banks are running out of money, but they print it out of air. So how can you run out of money if you just print it on a computer screen?
Right.
So it can't be that, right? It can't be, here you go. Here's your loan of X amount of dollars that never existed
Right.
until you pay it back, and then it
Well,
exists.
another big thing I remember in the '80s was Gorbachev and Reagan having them tear down the wall or all of
Wasn't
that
that
whole thing.
wonderful? Do you remember he had like islands across his head? I always thought his birthmark was fascinating. He had this
Right. I remember that.
birthmark of pieces of islands, and he seemed so enlightened because he wanted to end communism. Do you remember?
Uh, you're talking. I was like 9 or 10,
You were
so I don't
little.
know.
Maggie Thatcher with her little handbags and her gloves, and she was a powerhouse. She really was. And they said that even
Is that
Khrushchev,
Margaret?
Margaret Thatcher, they said
Okay.
even Khrushchev and what is that? What's the guy who threw a shoe? Maybe that was Khrushchev. Were afraid of her. They're like, Ronald Reagan, no problem. Americans, no problem. But when Margaret Thatcher enters the room, your knees start to shake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were real characters. But then look who we have for a president now. He's a character.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying he's good or bad. I'm just saying he's an amazing character.
Right.
He won't be forgotten for a little while.
No, definitely won't be forgotten. You know,
And
and
like, what's he going to do when his terms are over, whether he's reelected or not? Is he going to go back to The Apprentice? What's next after this gig?
right.
You
Yeah,
know?
that's something to think about. Yeah, it's definitely probably just back to business as usual, right? He's got a lot of businesses, probably a lot of expansion, I would imagine. But I think about when I watched Back to the Future, and I guess it was '85 or something, and he went back in time and he's like, and who's president? He's like Ronald Reagan, the actor. You know what I mean?
Yes. And then didn't they do another Back to the Future movie where they had Trump as president and Bo or whatever that Biff guy was dressing like Donald Trump?
Right.
Do you
Yeah, I
remember
did hear
that?
that. I did hear that
And he had a
connection with
big
that. Yeah.
casino hotel in that movie. And we're like,
Right.
and is he intimating that Donald Trump is president?
Right. I've heard that connection being made recently. Like,
What do you think? Do you think he's going to get back in? I know we're not a political show, but I'm listening to some of the astrological predictions. And most of them are saying, oh my God, we see him highly favored by the stars in terms of a
really?
second term. Yeah.
I was listening to who was it? Kim Clement. He's a Christian prophet, and it was a video that Michelle had sent me, and he made predictions back in like well, it was like a compilation. If anybody wants to look it up, you look up Kim Kim Clement Clement, I think is his name, and Trump prophecies or something like that. And anyway, it was
Oh,
a
I definitely want
compilation.
to see that tonight.
You've got to check it out. It's
Yeah.
really interesting because it says, you know, uh, they would cry impeach, and he would be a two-term president. the Dow would hit 20,000. I mean, there was some very specific prophecies that were made that as early as like 2004,
I was going to say,
2007.
when did he make these?
Yes, yeah, like 2004, 2007. I think there was a few in like 2014. So it was pretty interesting. So I was really, and I saw a funny, I saw a funny meme with Trump on it. It says, "I'm not orange, I'm peach."
I'm not orange, I'm peach. Oh my God, that's just too funny.
The stuff people think of is so hilarious.
And you know what? I had to explain. I'm just writing this down. Is it Kim, as in Kim?
But it's a guy, yeah. And and I wonder because I found out he passed away like within the last few years that he died of like a brain bleed or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
So he's
And,
not around anymore. I'm putting Clement,
yeah,
like
and
Clemens, Klement.
yeah. And then Trump prophecies. It was on YouTube, but it was like
I'm definitely going to see that because I mean, I'm not really into that stuff, but I am. It's like it's the new year, and that's when all these things start coming out. And I'm like, oh, this one looks interesting.
I
You
feel
know,
like he'll get back in because I don't see anyone else. And then it seems like the tactics that's been being used.
I think a part of Trump's success is a statement against the political system. He is one way of telling the professional career politicians to buzz off. I think he's a statement against the what's the word?
The status quo, or
Yes.
yeah.
He's a statement against the status quo. So I think like half of the supporters support him because they believe in what he says, and the other half do not believe a word he says, but they support him just to go up yours to the rest of the politicians, basically.
It's funny. There was the little frog, the meme frog that's on like 4chan and stuff. I
I
can't think
know
of what.
Keck, yeah,
Keck.
because of
Okay,
Unirock was really into Keck when it first came out.
okay. Well, what's her name? Erin.
Yes, Erin from Affected Collective.
Yeah, she did a video talking
Awesome
about the
video.
power of
It goes back to
memes.
ancient Egypt and memes and Keck. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like not being political, right? Because I didn't really care at the time,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when it was up for Trump or Clinton, I was like, I don't know who
Yeah.
I
It's like,
would I'd hate to vote for either one of them, and then one of
yeah.
so I was kind of like I felt like that about it, but in the back of my mind, I felt like, well, you know what? I would like for Trump to probably get in there and like tear some stuff up, you know what
I
I mean?
remember you saying that. Just
And
getting
then
in to like
that's what the
stir things
meme.
up, stir the pot.
Right, because I figured he would take a business approach to it rather than a political approach. That's sort of what I thought in the back of my mind. But like I said, I still didn't really care. I wasn't like, I didn't go vote or anything like that. But in the back of my mind, that's sort of how I felt. And then I found out that's what the memes were designed to make people feel like. That
Yes.
Trump would get in there and shake things up. And so I was like, wow, did it work on me? Or,
Drain the swamp. Remember that?
right.
And in a way, I mean, he is one way of shaking things up because he's so anti-political. He's like the antithesis of what you think a politician would be,
Right.
right?
And I liked, what was it? It was Magenta Pixie was talking about how we've gotten really political here, but
That's
it's
okay.
okay.
We don't do it very often, but I always enjoy it, and people seem to enjoy it occasionally.
Right. Well, she was talking about how like he's proud and like America is his, and that's sort of like that could work in our benefit in a way because it's kind of in his nature to want to show people that he can fix things, and he's sort of proud
And
about what he
look
can
how
do.
good I am, and look how great I am.
Exactly.
So, if he really wants his presidency to reflect that, then he's going to work harder to do good things. So, there's a
Exactly.
legacy that follows him.
Right. So she was saying, like, while he might be proud and haughty, it can work in our favor in a way because
Yeah.
he views America as his, sort of like New York City as his city, and he's expanded it to all of the United States. And I was like totally in agreement
I
with
get
him.
it.
Like, oh,
I
that
totally get
totally
it.
makes sense. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, I'm of the old school conspiracy theory hat wearers that it doesn't matter who you vote for. At the end of the day, the people who run the planet, and everybody else is a puppet. So it
Right.
doesn't really matter. They're all
Yeah.
going to do the same things to interest rates, the economy, jobs, the military, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm like
Like
that too.
Iran was on that hit list for years. So was Syria. So was Egypt. So was Iraq. It was the 1996 list of the neocons in Washington, D.C., of the countries that needed to be overthrown to put in a Western friendly leader
Hmm.
so that we could continue with the petrodollar instead of using their own currencies, and
Right.
all these countries were on that list. But the fact that it took them, and Libya was on the list, the fact it took them from 1996 to now 2020, Iran's the last one on the list. That's the good news,
And didn't
you
they? It
know?
seems like during Bush's presidency, he sort of like reignited the whole idea. He had the whole axis of evil thing that was going on at that
Yeah.
time. You remember?
Yes.
And it was down to three different places. What was it? Iran and
Iran, Iraq, maybe Syria,
or was it?
Libya.
It might have been North Korea.
Oh, did
Seems
he
like
go
there was
that
an.
far
Seemed
out?
like
Did he
there was
go to
an
North
Asian.
Korea?
Seems like there was an Asian.
Well, then Russia would be included in there too, probably,
Right.
as our arch old
But I don't
nemesis.
think it was one of the axes of evil. X axis.
But in the Middle East, this is the last country that was on the list in 1996
Mm,
to, and they had to get rid of Mubarak. They had to get rid of any independent country that said, stuff it, I'm going to sell my oil in my currency. Those are the ones that needed to go.
right. Yeah,
So,
I'm with you though. I feel like there's a plan that's being played out. Maybe Trump's going against it because he's got his own money, and maybe he's not backed as much by the interest. But he is only one man in this government full of all of these other people that don't really answer to him technically. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
like nobody answers to him. He's got his own staff answering to him, but the rest of the Congress and Senate don't. They're very independent. And it doesn't really matter. Whatever the figureheads say and do, there's no power in it. The power is in the money, and it's who controls the money has the power, the global power. And that
that's a
certainly isn't our president and prime ministers.
it's funny because I was watching this whole thing. I was catching a little bit of the whole impeachment hearings and things like that. Like when I turn on NPR while I was driving, and just catching. I'm like, man, they are wasting so much time. And like they could be getting some work done, right? Because like everybody was pretty much saying the same type of thing for
Yeah, weren't they
hours.
saying like, what's the distraction? Squirrel? Remember? Like Michelle goes, squirrel. We're like, why are they doing this impeachment nonsense? What are they really doing that we're supposed to be paying attention to?
So then it made me wonder. I'm like, okay, so they know it's not just the United States citizens watching this. They know it's the world watching
Yeah,
this, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and then I started thinking, man, this whole thing could be a big ruse or a big play, just to throw the other countries off and think that our government is in disarray. Maybe they're behind the scenes. They're like. Like my dad said, my dad and brother went to a wrestling competition, and the two main arch enemies of it, when they went to go buy the tickets earlier in that afternoon, they were like hanging out, laughing and joking and stuff, But that night, they're like banging on each other, and it was just all staged, for the wrestling thing. And I started
Yeah, I
thinking, what
kind
if
of
it's
do
like that?
see this
What if it's like
politics
that?
as the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF. It's kind of the same to me.
Yeah.
It's all a
That's why I say
stage.
just sit back and enjoy the show. There's not much you can. I know people like to get involved, and people say, "Well, if you don't vote," but I
Oh,
also
my
know how
daughter's
if you.
friends, they were like, impeachment, impeachment. Oh my God, they've just fired the president. I go, no, no, I thought so too when I was your age. But when Nixon was impeached, it just means charged in the House. And then the Senate has to try them. And then the Senate said, yes, you did do wrong, Tricky Dicky, by planting, what was it called?
Bugs.
Bugs in the other
Yeah.
party's
They're like
headquarters.
listening. Yeah.
According to today's standard, he wouldn't even get a slap on the hand for that, would he? Really? I
Right.
mean, everybody's listening to us all the time, right?
Right.
And then when Clinton had his impeachment um, episode, he was impeached, and the Senate found him guilty of lying under oath about not having sexual relations with that girl. And
Now,
then they
did that
said
change for you, or was he always impeached for you?
he was always impeached for me, and the
Okay.
Senate always found him guilty. And then the Senate went, but you can keep your job.
So
You
it was
don't
like a
need to
big
be
waste of time.
this. Yeah, you stay.
At the end of the day, it's like, why did you waste all that time
Why'd
going
you
through
impeach
all
him?
of those hearings and all of that if you're not even going to remove them, right? It's like,
It's like, what's the point then? So the House has impeached. Apparently, some people say that they've impeached Trump for what the Democrats have actually done.
right,
Remember when Hillary
with the
was
dossier
doing
and all that.
deals? Yeah, the dossier with all the
Right,
Russians and the United States.
which is actually sort of like they found a legal way to do what Nixon did, right? So instead of just
Yeah.
putting a bug in there and listening, they said, well, let's go to the FISA court and get the permission to listen using
Permission.
this dossier to do that. And I'm like, wow, it's like history's just repeating
It's like
itself, and they're
repeating
trying
itself.
to like do it in a way, and then it's like the pot calling the kettle black. At the end of the day, it's like, wait a minute, you
I
guys
was
are
like,
like,
who did what? Who did this? Who actually did this? Oh, you both did it. Okay, but one's getting in trouble. So it's like Shakespeare. It's like this big stage play being played out for us. But it's still the Senate is Republican, so they're not going to
right.
convict him. And even if they do, they'll probably say, "But keep your job. You stay. You stay. You're guilty,
And
but you stay."
and the funny thing is, I even saw a clip that they showed of Joe Biden like publicly saying he did what they were impeaching Bush
They
for.
did.
I was like,
Biden
oh my
and
gosh, he just
Obama and
for his
Clinton.
son
Oh
or
my God, they
something,
did all of that with Russia, but that was okay because Russia was our friend then.
right?
When they did it, Russia was cool. So we could trade with them. We could give them 20% of our uranium.
Well, I mean, more recently, he had made a joke about getting his son a job or something. They
Yes, yes, it wasn't. Yeah, I
called
remember.
him a SOB and all of this stuff, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, and it's like I don't know, it's just weird because it's like so much comes out, and it's like it's just a big cluster, you know what I mean?
It's just a big cluster, and then you go, what are they distracting us from? What's really going on that we're supposed to not notice?
Yeah, it's almost like
Because
they're actors.
they're
You know?
jingling a bell over here, going, "Everybody, look over here," while something else is going on over here, right?
Yeah, and I think it just comes down to them not wanting to have us using our power of intention for something more important, right? Like we do here.
Well, I think they know how all this works. And I think that's why they orchestrate fear. So now, if we become fearless and other people who come around us become fearless, they're going to have trouble orchestrating our emotions to create what they want to create here. And it'll be more about us all creating something that benefits the whole instead of something that benefits a very small minority of people,
Yeah.
you know?
Sort of like sports too. It's like they're just trying to get the people, amped up in either anger or, keeping you resonating in those lower vibe feelings of fear that your guy is going to get removed if you're like say a Trump supporter or anger that they're doing that or anger that they're not removing them if you're on the other side of it. It's just all these negative emotions that they seem like they're just trying to stir into
Yeah, and
people.
they really use duality, don't they? They
It's
really
like
stir the pot with duality.
yeah, I think even somebody said that like in sporting events they do that.
Like in sporting events, I'm thinking of like the Romans throwing Christians to the lions. I'm thinking of it going back that far where, they did some terrible things at sporting events just to get people's emotions going.
Yeah.
So we're kind of outgrowing that. We're outgrowing their ability to manipulate our emotions, which is wonderful, you know?
Exactly.
Especially the new generation, because they're like worried for 5 seconds and then it's like boom, their mind's on other things. They really don't give it the concentration and severity that we were taught to give it. you know
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's really interesting the way that works, and it's like that with the Mandela effect. They'll see it, and it's not nearly as big of a deal to them. When they're like 20, you're like, oh wow, that's cool, and then you're like, oh, I heard this other song changed or something, but
well
it's still not like life shattering to them, like
it's
for
not life
somebody older.
shattering, is it? When it's
Mm-mm.
it is when it's in the Bible though, right?
Oh yeah.
Right, we've been through that where you're like, what? Change the word of God. A lot of people are like really freaked out.
Oh yeah.
But I have a theory now. I think I think they knew the Mandela effect was happening because it's been happening for a long time now.
Yeah.
It's just catching on now. And I think they're doing this quantum computing thing as kind of like a cover for, ha ha ha, we're still in charge here, guys. Don't mess with us because we're causing the Mandela effect.
Right.
Because I know that they say they can't do the quantum computing yet. It's not been programmed. They don't have the programmers for it. It's a theory. Do you remember how black holes were theories? If
Yeah.
you study Tesla and plasmoids and toroidal fields, black holes don't exist. That theory was a theory that just never, everybody believed it as fact. We just thought there were black holes everywhere, just
Right.
holes in space, just sucking everything in with nothing on the other side of it. And according to Tesla and the electric universe theories, these are real scientists, there is something on the other side of that black hole, because that's the top end or the bottom end of a toroidal field. It's a
Right.
torus,
Yeah.
right? The donut looks like a black hole, but if you can see the whole thing, you're like, oh, no, 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 that's just the bottom of it.
So
That's
it's
where
more like
everything
a
goes.
wormhole.
Yeah, like a wormhole. And then everything comes back out the top of it. I see, and that goes back in the bottom. This never ending energetic flow,
Right.
you know?
And it's actually synchronistic that we're talking about the sporting, using that, because as Mel is saying that last caller last night, Laura was actually talking about the whole sporting thing and how,
Really?
it like
Hey,
if you're
Mel.
from one town and, like I was saying, I was from St. Louis, so it was like, it was all about the Cardinals
Yeah,
and
it's like, who's your team
right.
that you hate? Who did you learn to
And
hate?
then somebody comes from Chicago and they're like the Cubs, and you're like automatically you put
The
this wall up
Sox.
and you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, but
And then
yeah,
you've
it's
got like your worst team that you're supposed to hate more than any other team, right?
right.
The rivals. You had to get the rivals.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was the Cubs for us in St. Louis.
Really?
Yeah, the Chicago Cubs, because they were in I guess, the National League with the Cardinals, and then, and it's even like that with, with hockey. Like I didn't really follow hockey, but the Blues, if somebody else came and they were like a Kings or whatever, another team fan, it was like, oh, it's like I automatically sided with the Blues, even though I wasn't even a
Even though you
fan of
didn't
it.
care,
But I'm
you
from
did
St.
care.
Louis, so.
It's these rivalries go back. It's like the Hatfields and McCoys.
Right.
They go back hundreds of years, and you don't know who started them, but you're taught them as a child.
Yeah.
You know,
And you hate the best player on the other team, the one
of
that
course,
gets the home runs, and
until you
it's
steal onto your own team.
right, and then you love them.
Then you love them because they're playing for you.
It's so funny how we're like that too. Like we're just so easily persuaded to jump on, to
Oh,
group together, cluster.
to jump on a side.
Yeah,
There's power in numbers. You feel more secure. You feel safer when you're in a group. It's very brave to go out there and do things on your own and be the first person and not be afraid of being criticized.
right. That's why I don't participate in voting for that very reason, because it's hard to vote and not automatically pick a side. You pick the side, and then you're going to automatically fit, and you put yourself in that category,
Where
even if
you
you're
have
non-political.
to pick a side.
Right.
Otherwise, you can't do the process.
Right.
Right?
And then
So,
you
I
just
mean, I did the
automatically
same
start
as you.
hating the
I
other
voted
side.
Green Party, so that's like throwing away a vote because that's like 2% voted for Green, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
But it's fun to watch. I do enjoy, watching and
It's almost entertaining,
yeah.
especially since Donald got in. That made it more politics, even more entertaining.
Yeah, I guess Donald Trump and Twitter, that just creates this really
I know, but
interesting
Twitter had a
combination.
beautiful response to World War III, whereas mainstream media was like, this is it, guys. This is the beginning of the end. And Twitter was all over it with silly, crazy, stupid memes immediately, you know? And we need that. We need that. We need somebody to, it's almost like the old cartoonists of olden days who used to do the political cartoons to make fun of all the politicians who were being so serious all the time.
Right.
Or Mother Goose, nursery rhymes. They
Yeah.
they were invented for the same reason.
Yeah. A lot of the nursery rhymes.
We're political, to criticize the government without getting your head chopped off or, getting thrown in jail for the rest of your life. You just did it through a nursery rhyme.
Wow. And now we got memes.
Now
And
we've
they're
got
pretty
memes.
funny. They're pretty funny. As
They
long as
are
you don't
pretty
take them too seriously. Because I know the whole I'm not orange, I'm peach thing would upset a lot of people. But
That would make me laugh for sure.
I thought it was
Especially
so
if it
funny.
made a peach out of his head and his hair somehow, And his skin is peach usually, he's usually orange. Bye,
Right.
girls. So we got a lot of requests for meditations, and you've got one, right? So we can just do them all. I've got I think there's 4 or 5 requests, and we can just do them all moving forward.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
You mean week after week or all
Yeah,
of
week
tonight?
after week, or maybe combine some. Like, what was your idea tonight? You said something.
Well, I thought about abundance, just kind of across the board. So whether, as we start this new year, whether we're needing an abundance of help for, I don't know, maybe some new plan that you've got going on, or for funding of something, a project that you've got planned for this year, or you need help or floor space, or Australia needs an abundance of water right now, an
Abundance of
abundance of
water.
safety. So just abundance, and this is something that will continue to work. People can keep doing it if they like, but yeah,
Kind of
Australia's
like
needing.
universal abundance as opposed to just money.
Yeah, because it's like the way it is here on Earth. We're taught lack all the time. Like
All the
there's just
time.
not enough. There's just not enough.
There aren't
We're
enough
short on
jobs.
this. We're short on this. We're short on
Yep.
this. But really,
There
things
isn't
are
enough food
abundant.
to feed Africa. Nope. Nope.
So just sort of to, and since we really attract what we feel, I think to feel that abundance, the abundance of safety, the abundance of firemen to put out the fires, and the abundance of
The
water
abundance
to
of
do the job.
resources,
Yeah.
because the universe is boundless. The universe has infinite energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the energy for whatever you need is always available if you approach it supposedly, if you follow all the manifestation leaders,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about approaching it with gratitude and an abundant heart,
Mm-hmm.
so that you expect abundance and you recognize abundance in the little things.
Yeah.
Like, wow, thank you for this home. Thank you for this meal.
The
Thank you for my
abundance of health and
car.
healing. Yeah.
Health and healing. I'm healthy. Instead of focusing on what you don't have and saying, I want more, but I'm only going to look at the holes in my life, you
Right.
focus on what you do have, your children, your partners, your animals, your home.
And that's a more true vision. I mean, we're getting into the whole 2020 vision, the veil dropping, and the
Yep.
truth of the fact, the matter of fact is that there's plenty. There's plenty, and if we resonate with plenty, we feel plenty, no matter what it is that we're trying to do. Um, an abundance of love. We need to feel that abundance, and I think kind of having that across the board, whatever it is, whatever your need is, whether it's healing or water and people to help put out the fires, an abundance of protection and shelter for those in Australia
Yep.
and around the
Yep.
world.
I think we can do that for sure. And I'll just mention some other ones we're going to do in the future moving forward.
Hmm.
Ronnie gave me a great one right before the holidays, the break for the holidays. And she did a little video on her channel, Ronnie and VA. And it was really kind of profound. And it was something I need to work on in this lifetime, that I am working on. And it's withholding judgment of others, because as soon as you judge them, they now have to play the role that you've given them. Your ideas and emotions about a person are so powerful that they kind of pick up on what you expect from them, and you are helping to create the very things that you don't like in people by expecting those things in people. you
Right.
know and we do that all the time, like how we view our loved ones or Trump, or we have these preconceived ideas of who they are and what they're like, instead of saying, well, that may be what they were like yesterday, but today, what are they going to be like today?
That
Wipe the
gets into
slate
the whole
clean.
judging thing too,
The
doesn't it?
judging thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that one for sure. We got a couple of requests for Middle Eastern peace while
Hmm.
we were away, for obvious reasons. And Paulo and Vanessa were talking about the bushfires in Australia.
Hmm.
And I'm sure Nicola and all of our friends down there would appreciate, so we can tie that into the abundance of water wherever it's
Hmm.
needed, whenever it's needed.
Even the abundance of peace, we can at least touch on
The
that. I mean, we can
abundance
do a
of
separate one
peace.
too, but
And
the
then
abundance
April
of.
gave us a great one too, where she said, um, is it possible we could do a meditation where everybody, every single human being, the fractals, the pixels, the cells of humanity, is divinely connected? They are connected to their divine being, their divine intuition, and to God, and to
Hmm.
the divinity of God, so that the whole is connected, instead of just a few light workers and star seeds running around who are deeply connected, divinely connected. Could we do a meditation that sparks that fire, for all to be connected? And that reminded me of that one picture I sent you that we didn't use, which is fine. And I wouldn't want to use it either because it was kind of ugly, but it was a group of matches and only one was flaming. Did you see
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, I like
And
that
you're
one.
like, any second now, that whole group is just going to go poof, right?
Right. Yeah.
Burst into flames
Yeah.
because it just takes one,
Mm-hmm.
which is the double entendre of our show name. It only takes one.
You're right. I noticed that with it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. For some reason, some of the pictures you sent, I tried to load them in and they wouldn't work. They had a different ending than JPG. You know, they had
They're all
like
from
a
Pixabay. They're all free images, but I don't know. I might have picked some with a different ending.
yeah. And when I tried to get a lot of times you can just rename them and add JPG to the end and they'll work, but it didn't work. It worked for me to open them on my desktop, but when I tried to import them into Photoshop, it didn't. But I figured it
Interest.
worked out the way it was supposed to. I
I
think
like
it's
it the
fine.
way it is,
Yeah.
I really do. It's an O. That bubble is like an O for one,
Right. And it looks
right?
like energy coming over the whole earth and sort of swirling together into one.
Yes, I see
And,
that.
and that kind of goes along with the whole power of eight that
Yeah, it
Lynn
does.
McTaggart
All the
talks
different
about
energy coming together and then
and
making just
creating a
one
whole.
whole.
Yep. Exactly. I
Yeah.
love that. You
Yeah, me
know?
too. And I like the flat white earth, the blue earth on a white sea, and it's a flat puzzle piece. So you can either make it round by moving the puzzle pieces or you can lay it flat because in a hologram it can be both at the same time. It
Yeah.
all depends on the observer.
Exactly.
Does the observer want to observe a flat earth or do they want to observe a round earth or another kind of earth like Sherry's eyeball earth, and you get what you're observing, what you're expecting. You get what you expect to see.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I love that. And then, of course, we have the puzzle piece on our book. And then
yeah.
when you hear Biker Babe talking about how we're all like little puzzle pieces coming together
No,
and
I think
creating
we
this.
are biker babe. I think we're all little puzzle pieces. And you know what's funny is I heard Cynthia's talk today on the Mandela Effect conference channel. All of you guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, it's up. It's wonderful. And she was talking about, um, I don't think she put it as puzzle pieces, but she said that the ones who are the early affected are very sensitive on the scale of that. We can all go and do this little test and see how much are we ruled by feelings versus how much are we ruled by thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Are we right brain or are we left brain? And she said at the moment the most of the Mandela affected people tend to be right brained individuals. Look at you, you're a songwriter. I'm a songwriter. Lots of people here are artists and writers and poets and other kind of creative thinkers, right?
Right.
But she said it doesn't mean it has to stay in that category. It can spread to everybody, everywhere, even the most left brained, analytical, logical people can eventually become Mandela affected.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just the beginning. We're that
I was
one flame, that one match.
If you guys you can actually go to the community tab. If you click my little icon under the video there and go to the community tab, you can I made a post to my interview with Chris Sinatra. And once you go
Wonderful.
there, you can just subscribe to the channel and see the other videos. It's probably the easiest way I can tell you to get there right now.
So I wonder if I saw your talk yet or if I just saw your interview. Because there's only a few up. Maybe I only saw your interview so far. Maybe
Yeah,
your
where me and
talk is
Chris
coming up
Sinatra were
next.
just talking to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
Okay, I knew that one. In fact, I just found that I just found out a couple of days ago that it got posted. I was like, oh, it came up in December, so it's been up there for a few weeks, but I just didn't realize. I was expecting it to come up on the Quantum Businessman's channel,
Oh,
Chris
okay.
Sinatra's. So I've been peeking over there, and I didn't realize that it had already
Yeah,
been
it's up on
posted. So
the conference channel. So maybe
yeah,
your talk hasn't posted yet. Maybe I'm thinking of your interview
right.
because
Yeah,
they're
that could
coming
be
up
what
in
it is.
order, right? So
Yep, they're
like
posting them in order. So, and I think mine should be the third one.
you're
I'm gonna
next
look
then
and
because they just did Chris Anatra, they did Cynthia Sue Larson, and now you're going to be next, I bet.
exactly because I was the first on the second day. And then after mine was Lauren Canal Pavelka's,
You're
and
next
then
then because he
yeah,
just posted his and Cynthia Sue's. So that must have been on the first night.
yeah. So Kimberly Lynn Hansen will be last.
And it's tied to
She's
yours. Kimberly's is tied to yours,
and
right?
so is Lauren's.
So is
Lauren's is
Lauren's.
yeah. There's a common thread that goes through the whole thing. It's so amazing. In fact, Lauren had come up with the whole left brain right brain thing, and we had slides that were similar to each other, and I was like, that's so weird, It's so that we completely got it separate from one another, and it was the first time we'd heard of it there at the thing. So we had that one synchronicity that was huge, that just blew our mind, because then you can actually see that there's a higher agency at work.
When you're all connected, when you all get the same
Yeah.
train of thought running through, just the three of you, right? The three of you on the same day.
Bringing back. Well, Kimberly was with Cynthia Sue Larson on the third day, Sunday, and then each day we had a panel discussion each day too, which was great.
Okay, so I popped over to the Quantum Businessman, and he's got your interviews. Is that music from the Mandela Effect movie? Do you think it sounds like it? The music that's used.
I think it was out before the. I think it was out before the. I think that's. I can't be sure. I think it's his. Just on his videos.
Now I'm going over to Mandela Effect conference.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see if your whole speech has uploaded.
And the name's going to get switched. Right now it's the Mandela Effect Conference International. It's going to get switched to IMEC, IMEC, which is International Mandela Effect Conference. So we're switching it around. And
what is it, IMEC?
IMEC, yeah. IMEC for International Mandela Effect Conference is the actual acronym. So that name is going to change, but you can find it right now under Mandela Effect.
I found it, Mandela Effect Conference International.
Exactly.
So the international is added, and we have the chat from Chris after the chat from Cynthia. Mm-hmm. And you're right, the rest are all interviews. So in my mind, I saw your presentation, but I haven't really.
Right. No.
Not in reality, but I felt like I did when I said, yeah, I think it was your whole presentation.
Yeah, because it was posted 3 weeks ago. So it looks like he has the interview with Chris Sinatra does the interviews for all three of the ones. So me and Chris, and then Lauren, and then Dark Wolf, Jerry Hicks. And then it looks like out of the conference, they've got the first day's speakers, which was
Chris and Cynthia.
Exactly. So I don't know if they're going to put up the panel discussion next.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I don't know. And we actually discussed doing the panel discussion as premieres. That way we can all, or whoever's available out of the group, can get into the chat, and we can chat with everybody while it's playing. We thought that'd be kind of cool to do.
That would be nice. Didn't we do that? I feel like we did that. I was on your channel, and other people were over at Dark Wolf. That was when you guys did the...
That was our final day one, because Kimberly's presentation was so long that we had to get out of the venue, and so we didn't get our final panel discussion. So we thought, hey, let's do it online.
Yeah,
let's do it online, and everybody that couldn't make it to the conference can join in. So yeah, we had over 100 people combined with my channel and
well, I mean, I'm
Dark Wolf's.
Not bragging, but it's going to sound that way because the conference people had 30 people live. They had heavy hitters in there, and your little channel had over 100. So you really do draw them in big numbers.
Right.
And people didn't realize that it was live in many different places.
Right.
Because I went over to the conference channel and watched it there, and one of our subs was over there going, where's Eileen gone in the chat? Where's Michelle gone? Where'd everybody go? So she obviously switched from your chat room live to the conference chat room live, and it was like we all disappeared out of the chat.
Oh, right.
Because it's a different chat, isn't it? It's the same live show, but it's a different chat because you're on a different channel.
It probably was confusing because I put a link over to Jerry's right at the top of my description. I just didn't want people to come to my channel and miss it, But
you had to, because they couldn't ask questions from your channel.
Exactly.
But if they went over to Jerry's channel or to the conference, was it on Jerry's or was it on the conference channel?
It was on Jerry's. Yeah, we didn't
And
have
they could ask questions of the panelists.
Right.
But so you had to do that. You had to link. Plus, you guys do that anyway because it's so democratic here. Everybody links everybody's channels here all the time.
Right.
So
yeah, I was trying to get more people over there, but it is. Most people just wanted to chat, not ask questions anyway.
I mean, you had your first UOTF big get together at ECETI, and over 100 people showed up. A lot of these conferences would be very lucky to get 100 people show up. So you do have a way of drawing them in.
I think people like to hang out more too.
I think you're right. I think it was one big hangout,
Because even at the conference, it was like that. I mean, they enjoyed the speakers or whatever, but they really enjoyed in between the
Yeah,
refreshment time and
yeah.
before and after. Because people just want to talk and hang out and stuff. You know, it's
Get to know each other in the
yeah,
community. That's so cool.
it is. It's really cool. So
So where's the next one? Do you know if it's Dallas or Connecticut? And is it April?
Connecticut in May. I've got to get the
Connecticut,
exact date.
May. And then is one going to be in London? Is it going to go to London after that?
I'm not really sure.
If it's going to go international.
It is going to go international for sure. I just don't know when and where. I know we're trying to nail down this first date, but you guys will be the first to know, of course. I will make sure you guys know.
Can you imagine going down to Australia and meeting Nicola and Paulo and who else, down there?
Oh, there's a ton of people
There's a
down
lot. And in Canada, too.
there. In Canada
Canada would
too.
be
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah. That's why I thought of Chicago. And well, we were even discussing for our book doing a Chicago get together because it's so
Yeah, we
close
were going to
to
do a
the
middle of
Canadian
the
border.
country, Chicago get together, easy hub for
Hmm.
everybody to get to.
Yeah.
But then we were going to do a Mandela Effect conference tied to it with inviting people like Moneybags to come out and actually speak,
Hmm.
and other Mandela Effect channels, maybe Brian McFarland and anybody who wanted to come out and
Right.
meet their subs. And we just never organized it. And now you got a group of people really organizing it. So it's almost easier to just go attend the conferences that they set up
It is.
instead of
It
setting
really
up
is.
another one.
Hmm. And then still have our get together in maybe Savannah this year.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
Something on
definitely.
the East Coast.
Something on the East Coast in the summer, right?
Hmm.
Is that right? And when everybody's got a little time off?
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, that would
Okay.
be nice.
So a lot of things happening, guys.
Maybe even late summer when it's not too humid.
Like closer to September,
September-ish,
like the
yeah.
last week of August.
Let's see, why did we
Gotta be
do that?
careful because
Oh,
down by me, the kids go back to school like on August 15th.
exactly. That's
So I
exactly
don't
why
want
we did it at the
parents
beginning
to
of.
get away.
That's why
Yeah.
we did it on 8/8 because it was enough time for people to, their kids to be off and kids can come, it's like
Yeah, and it was the Lionsgate. Remember the 8/8
yeah.
Lionsgate? It was wonderful. It was so good.
I mean, it's totally the type of an event that you can totally bring your kids along. It's like
Oh yeah, they can be
nothing
running out
crazy going
there
on.
stargazing, and a lot of people brought those little glow in the dark sticks. Remember the
Yeah.
kids? Lots of kids running around with glow in the dark stuff.
And this one will have the beach on Tybee Island. So
Yeah,
it's really Tybee Island is where I like to go on this one, which is
yeah,
just
and
a
just
short drive from
take a day
Savannah.
into Savannah for the nighttime ghost tours. A
Yeah.
bunch of us running around with ghost meters and giggling and capturing orbs, and can you imagine?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I
That'd
don't
be
know
awesome.
why, but having ghosts or aliens nearby just makes it so much more fun.
Definitely. I couldn't be in more agreement with you on that.
you know?
Yeah. And it
Okay.
is beautiful there. And it's not like busy like some beaches are. And we can probably rent out like a
Like
big
a whole
section.
hotel, right?
Yeah.
You think so? You've been, right?
Yeah, we went on vacation there I think it was '06. It
It
was
is hurricane season too. I just want to add, we might be all hunkering down for a hurricane
We'll
party.
be steering it right back out. Like, no big
We will
deal.
be steering it right back out to sea. Yep. But
Bring your
hopefully,
surfboards.
yeah, bring your surfboard so you can get home and a boat. Bring a boat.
That's what. Hey, it's getting back to the whole abundance thing. We'll have an abundance of waves if there's a hurricane churning off the
We know
shore.
when we were all steering that last one off and it just stopped over the Bahamas and didn't move. We're like, I hope we didn't do that. Did we do that? By blowing it out to sea while it was coming at us at 250 miles an hour, we're all just,
Caused it to stall.
yeah, just to make it stop over one little island.
Right.
No.
We need to, I guess, sort of imagine it curving and not stopping this time. Curving
Yeah,
around and heading
exactly. We
back
got to
up.
keep it moving away from all the islands. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, are you guys ready? Should we do our first group live meditation intention prayer together for
Absolutely.
2020, kicking off the year? And
Coming together in the power of one.
we're all
Love it.
together in the power of one. And it's abundance, right? And it's
Hmm.
abundance in all things, which even includes the weather. When
Right.
we need rain, we get rain where we need it.
Really an abundance mindset because if we have the mindset, it's gonna it's gonna follow, right?
It's gonna, like, yeah, I was gonna say the Chinese, um the Confucian. I'm just into Confucius at the moment. I'll move on eventually, don't worry. Like next week I'll be reading the Tao. Again, I'm just revisiting some old classics, and it said abundance is peace. And I'm like, how did they get from abundance to peace? That peace
Hmm.
is abundance. And then they explain it, and I'm probably going to wreck it while I'm describing it, but the idea went something like, if you are feeling abundant in love, you love your family, your relationships, you're not needing money, you got your home and your car and your food, you're not needing. What else? If you health, you're feeling abundant in health, everything's working, you're not needing. In the state of abundance, you do not need anything, therefore you feel
Peace.
peace.
Peace. Infinite
Peace.
waters. Did you hear what?
Oh, I love that guy. I love Infinite
Yeah.
Waters guy. He's so wonderful. He's got like a gazillion subscribers too,
Yeah.
right? But peace is abundance. And I'm like, you're right. Once they talked me through the process, I was like, you're right. Abundance is peace, and peace is abundance in all things.
Hmm.
Okie dokie, but I don't think we're going to do peace because we did peace the last week. So
Right.
we'll stick to the abundance.
Right.
We'll see where it goes. We never know. It's never scripted or planned.
Yeah, and those doing it now to date, just imagine an abundance of water for our Australian
For our
friends and
Australian friends,
put
an
those
abundance
fires
of
out.
rain, an abundance of peace in the Middle East.
Hmm.
Imagine that for our friends in the Middle
An
East.
abundance of, yeah, an abundance of peace, an abundance of, supplies and things that people need in certain situations like this. There's a lot of times people are displaced. They need plenty of food, plenty of water to actually drink, drinking water. And let's just imagine all of those needs are taken care of.
So we just need an abundant mindset
Yeah.
in all things, in all ways, at all times, never running
Hmm.
out, because the universe never runs out of energy.
Absolutely.
Okie dokie.
Perfect. All right.
Cool. We will just go ahead and put the screen down. There we go. Just had a little bit of water. So go ahead and get nice and comfy, and go ahead and like really relax your back muscles if you can into whatever is holding you, whatever is supporting you right now. Just let the muscles go and really kind of float into the furniture that is supporting you. And take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in and hold it for just a moment. And exhale out any tension. Go from the top of your head down to your toes. Let all the tension go. Another breath in when you're ready. Really fill up your lungs and hold it for a moment. Let that oxygen really saturate your bloodstream, and exhale out any stress of the day, the holidays. And finally, take a third deep, relaxing breath in. Really feel it coming up from your toes, filling your lungs all the way up to the top of your head, and exhale out completely. And as you do, let every muscle relax. And now we're going to start the heart maths breathing in through our heart center and out of our heart center. So you imagine breathing in through your heart chakra and out of your heart chakra at a pace that's really comfortable. Not too fast, not too slow. Don't hold it. And if you like, now is the time to take a nice, beautiful color in with the breath that goes in through your heart. Your body will know which color to imagine in the moment. And exhale that color back out. And this time, when you breathe the color in, let it fill up your entire body from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, running down your arms and out your fingertips, running down your legs, and any excess goes right out of your toes. Continue breathing in your heart space, really feeling the love and the light. And knowing that whatever color you chose tonight is nourishing and healing for you. We're going to hold hands now. And if you haven't done it already, you can go ahead and send a grounding cord down from your root chakra at the base of your spine and just let it go down all the different layers of the building, the earth. Let it go down to the center. And when it reaches the center, let it spread out quickly in all directions. So you're solidly rooted to the earth, very grounded. And we're going to imagine doing something that we love doing in this lifetime, in the here and now, either on our own or with people or with pets. It could be taking a walk somewhere. It could be playing a musical instrument. It could be playing with children, your grandchildren, or your kids. It could be walking your dog or, taking a boat ride or skiing, doing something outdoors, communing with the natural environment. Just imagine doing that now. See it, hear it, really sense it. And now together, as one, we are intending, and really see it as you intended and really feel it. We're intending that everybody in this community has a very strong, secure sense of abundance. Abundance in every possible way, knowing that the universe is infinite with its energy and the universe never runs out of anything ever. Really feel that abundance of love. And think about all your loved ones and the abundant feelings of love that you receive from them and you give to them, and how that love never runs out. It never runs on empty. There's always more. And abundance in finances and having a home and buying food and buying the energy to put into the car or that bus ticket or train ticket to travel. Just really sense the abundance of your needs being met easily, effortlessly, abundantly. And now think about the abundance in nature. What part of the world are you in? And what kind of abundance do we need to imagine together for your part of the world? Is there too much rain and too much flooding? Do we need to slow down the rain in the area so that it receives exactly the amount it needs? Not too much, not too little. And do we need to send that rain somewhere dry, like Australia, sending them an abundance of rain? Not too much, but just what's needed in the now, in the here, in the present moment. And let's see that rain falling where it most needs to fall. And continuing on with the abundance in nature, it's that balance of the snow and the wind so that the storms that naturally occur are easy and peaceful and easy and really pass without too much stress on the environment and the people and the animals. So we're looking at balance in the abundance. We're actually looking at balance within abundance. And what about projects and manifestations and dreams, new businesses, new partnerships, new ideas of things to do? Let's just imagine an abundance of resources, whatever is needed at that moment for those ideas to successfully gel and successfully manifest into matter, into reality. Let's send them abundance of resources. That could be in terms of people, meeting the right people at the right time. It could be in finances, getting the right backing and bank loans or partnership loans. It could be in customers, an abundance of customers to purchase the services and the products that are being offered. And now let's look at abundance of creativity. What is it inside of you that makes you feel like you are a creator? Is it music? Is it dance? Is it research? Is it poetry? Is it writing? Is it the logic of understanding and coming up with creative solutions to problems? And just imagine that flow of abundance coming into your creativity so that your creativity flows easily, effortlessly. And now let's imagine an abundance of peace, particularly in the Middle Eastern region and those countries where there's a lot of oil and gas and strife, that's been going on for thousands of years. Let's send an abundance of peace all over the world, and specifically to the Middle East at the moment, in the here and the now. What does an abundance of peace feel like? What does it mean? Does it mean plenty of shelter and clean water, medical supplies and food? Does it mean a ceasefire of hostilities so that there is peace amongst the different people and the different governments and the different banks and the different energy companies, so that they can see that there is an unlimited wealth of abundance on earth, and all they have to do is figure out how to peacefully and harmoniously share the earth's resources, because in truth there is plenty for all. Always will be plenty. And finally, when we go silent for 3 minutes, think of something in your immediate environment or in the world that's important to you, that requires the peace of abundance, that peaceful feeling of knowing that there is no lack, that there is an abundant source of energy available in our universe at all times. And for 3 minutes, we'll just go quiet and silent, and we will just see abundance coming to what we feel in this moment needs it the most. And now, before you open your eyes and move around, just imagine the entire earth bathing in the abundance of love. You can see that any way you like. Maybe with a blanket of a color of pink, of rose quartz, or green, healing heart energy green. And go ahead and let your grounding cord go if you like, or you can stay grounded if you prefer, and open your eyes and start to move around.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And you do that so well. I hope I can
Thank
learn to do that
you.
as well
Do.
as
I
you do.
love your meditations. I go to sleep to them.
No, but I was just, I was taken back to, even right then, I was taken back to ESETI at how well you did that in that group setting.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, you do such a great job at it. And I aspire to be able to do it live like that
Oh,
sometime, you know.
thank you very much. I'm going to appreciate that compliment instead of trying to go, oh, shucks. Nah, you know. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, I felt so peaceful. I felt my head was like just going to relax off my shoulders. I felt so much relaxation with the group.
Yeah.
I can feel the group energy. I can feel us here together. Like we are all in that barn in ESETI, like right now.
Yeah. And even the people watching this later, I'm sure they can feel it because I feel it later when I watch it. It's like
I do
right there.
too.
There's no time because whenever somebody is watching it, it's in the now for them.
And I
And
think we're feeling them now, even though
right,
they're going to listen to it in a week. We've got their energy. It's like there's no time.
exactly. We're so connected, and I could totally feel it tonight.
We are so
You know,
lucky. We're just so lucky that we have someplace with you to come together to do this live, to just connect and relax and trust and love and change the world one person, one step at a time.
and I could really the piece that you were talking about. It does feel like it comes from feeling like it's going to be okay. We have plenty.
We
You
have
know,
plenty. Don't worry.
plenty of love,
We have
plenty of
plenty.
rain. It's all going to work
Plenty of
out.
money, plenty of love,
Yeah.
food, shelter. There's plenty. So that sense of peace, I got that from the Chinese. That came from Confucius. So what a wise man. I think that was like 500 BC. Confucius means Master Kong.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Who was it that said?
so wise.
Oh, it was Kimmy that said abundance of empathy, and I thought, yeah,
Was that
think of
Kim
that.
Trails? Kimmy from Kim Trails?
The medium that rocks.
The medium that rocks.
Yeah.
Abundance of empathy.
Yeah, and I thought about how that applies to these regions that need peace, and it's like if people would empathize with the enemy, and the peace would come from that, just
It would come
empathizing,
from
to
that.
see them as another human rather than the enemy, to
Yeah.
see that, each side of a conflict feels like they're right, and to really, if,
So,
you know,
don't you think that if the empathy grows, everything else will just fall into place? It'll just
yeah.
happen?
Yeah, because once you do that, how can you take another life if you
You
empathize with them?
can't.
You can't,
Or their food, or their oil, or their resources. You just can't take it.
right? And then the abundance, just in general, that there's plenty, then you don't have to take from anyone else. There's plenty for all.
There is. It's how it's managed. It's managed into a lack, or it's managed into plenty.
Yeah,
But
that's how the
managing plenty is not very profitable. Managing plenty means that you don't get more than somebody else in terms of need. So there's not that extra profit. The profit is always the space in between having something and not having something.
yeah.
And it's how much are you willing to pay for it so that you can have it because you need it. But then I get to scoop off the profit. I get that space. You know what I mean? It's like not even tangible energy anymore at that point.
That's how it was I can't remember what the source was on that, but the Lemurian society, there was like basically like this, what you would imagine like a whole food farmers market type situation, and people are going and grabbing without paying for it, just grabbing what they need. Nobody's stockpiling the apples and trying to get away with more than their share because there was plenty. They could just come back when they need more. You can get
So
more fresh apples, and
you wouldn't hoard if
you
you
wouldn't
always
hoard.
go back
Why were
and
you
hoard.
hoarding?
Why would
They're
you
going to just
hoard?
rot, you know? So you want to go back for fresh apples. So you just take what you need, and no one's, it can work. We've been so trained to feel like
Lack,
lack,
lack
you know?
everywhere, lack of
And it's
everything.
used in advertisement. Get it before it's gone, and.
Exactly. I remember during one of the hurricanes, the last place that had bread was Walgreens because who goes to Walgreens for bread? Like, nobody.
Right,
So I was like, oh, I need some bread for the peanut butter because you can always eat peanut butter sandwiches, right, for a very
right.
long time and live.
Yeah.
And I went there and the lady said something and I went, darn, I forgot the bread. And the man behind me, I'm sure I told you this story, had 5 loaves in his arms. And I was turning to go get some bread and he went, oh, I took the last few loaves. There isn't any more bread. And I went, oh, that's okay. Never mind. We've got crackers. We can eat other things. And he actually handed me 2 loaves of his bread. And he went, no, 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 I can't leave unless you have some bread to take home. And I'm like, no, don't worry about it. He's like, no, seriously, I cannot leave the store knowing that you didn't get bread because of me. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I took like a loaf or two of bread. And he was serious. He was not leaving unless I took some of his bread. How generous and empathetic is that?
Yeah, it really
You
is.
know,
And you really see it in these natural disasters. It's hard not to cry when you see these people getting their own boat out, spending their own gas, and going and rescuing people. It's like this is the world. All of these loving people are out there. You just don't see them until a disaster hits, and then they're
human
like, "Where do
nature
you
is
need
so
me?
beautiful.
Where do
Yeah.
you need me? I'm there. I'm helping rebuild your house. I'm helping get you out of the flood zone. I'm helping in any way I can, and
But
it
then we
it
don't
works.
even have the cameras on that because mainstream media focuses on the negative to produce a certain kind of feeling.
Right.
So we're not even showing all the people and the beauty in human nature, which is so profoundly beautiful and empathetic.
It really is. Yeah. Instead,
Um,
they're showing looting and things like that.
yeah, and grabbing TVs and breaking windows instead just to make you feel scared, a little scared
Right.
of humans. It's almost like they're saying, don't trust humans because then we can't control you. As
Right.
soon as you start trusting each other, we're lost. Then
Yeah.
the game's up.
Yeah. Well, we're getting there.
I think we should
Step at a
do a
time.
meditation, Kim, on just empathy. I think we need to do an entire meditation on empathy.
Yeah, because that really is. It's really putting yourself in someone else's shoes. That does take care of a lot of stuff. I mean,
It
you're
takes
not going to steal from
everything. It
somebody
takes
if
care of
you.
everything.
Right. That's the back to the golden rule, isn't it?
It
You know.
is. It's that
Yeah.
man with the bread behind me who would not let me leave the store without some of his bread. You know?
Exactly.
Oh, we're definitely going to do that. We've got like 4 or 5 lined up now from people sending in suggestions. And I think empathy would be a good one.
I agree for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you guys. And thank you. I feel so lucky to be able to meditate with all of you every
Me
Saturday night because I
too.
can feel your energy. It's like it's strong.
I feel it too. I'm going to be watching the news because, well, not really, but I'll be checking in on the fires because I know that I could see the rain falling and the fires going out. And
Yeah, the abundance of water in
yeah,
Australia right now, but not
yeah.
too much.
Right, not too
Avoid
much.
the mudslides.
Right. Yeah, I just saw it calming, just blanketing the rain across there. And so, yeah.
Well, coincidentally, I don't know if you guys follow, some of us do, Stephen Greer, right? Dr. Stephen Greer, who
I
does ET
do from
content.
time to time, but I haven't seen him in a while. I haven't seen anything.
Well,
What's it?
he put out a call tonight for CE5, which is it's the contact of the fifth kind. What was the fourth kind? Wasn't that the J. Allen Hynek Close Encounters of the fourth kind? He's doing Close Encounters CE5 of the fifth kind, which is interpersonal communication and experiences with our extraterrestrial or interdimensional friends.
Very
And
nice.
tonight, between 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's now 9:40, and midnight, we're just supposed to go. You're going to love this. You do this all the time. We're supposed to go outside alone or with other people and just look at the night sky and the stars and just welcome loving, cooperative, kind, helpful friends in our universe, in our galaxy, just
Wow.
so
Just
that they
sending the
know
love
they're
out there.
welcome. Yeah, send the love out and say we are ready for help and love and communal,
That's beautiful. I
yeah,
like that.
so that they know we're not afraid of them, that we're not afraid, and that they have to stay away because they might scare us too much.
That's nice to know I won't be out there alone
I'm gonna
tonight.
walk the dog, so I'll be out there. I'll tell you what, check out my last 1 minute video. It's Venus, but is it Venus? Jen's Gems goes, I think that might be a ship because it looks like he said he. It's massive. It looks like a little sun or moon
Yeah.
low on the horizon, and then it blinks twice at us, just like the Yeseti ships blinked. But when I
Wow.
put my star map on my phone app, it said Venus.
Yeah.
So was it Venus blinking, winking, or was it a starship in front of Venus
Right. Making it
blinking
blink.
and winking on New Year's Eve? It was astoundingly huge.
Yeah, it was like that earlier, but you have to like it's probably down by now, but it was super. It wasn't blinking, but it was super
Super,
bright. It
super,
almost looks like I'm like, is that a plane flying like directly at me? It's just
yes.
so bright,
It
and
almost looks
it's
like a
not
second
moving.
moon, right?
It's super bright. I mean, you can actually tell it's not a spot. It's a round. You
It's
can tell it's a sphere.
round. It's a
Yeah.
round sphere, and it's not blinking like a star, red, green, blue. It doesn't have that twinkle.
Right.
So is Venus just
It
getting
must be really
closer to
close.
us,
It
or
must
is it
be.
just getting like brighter? But how could Venus get brighter if it's just being lit up by the sun? Or is it producing its own luminescence now?
Right. See, so it might be like you typically think of a full moon. Venus might be full right now from our perspective. The sun might be hitting and like filling up the whole thing
Of the
because
planet.
I've right exactly. So I'm not really sure where it is in relationship to
Then that
Earth.
probably was Venus and not a starship, but it is looking like a starship. It's looking huge.
Yeah, super
It never
bright.
used to be that big.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get the telescope out and try to get some images of it. It's been
If you
so
do,
bright,
throw them
but
up for us and we'll look at them
yeah, that'd be nice because it's just been it's been cold, but it's been you've got to get out there early and
to
like
catch it.
tonight it was still the sky wasn't even dark yet and it's just like bright.
Wow. I mean, even Jupiter's getting brighter and closer looking.
Mm-hmm.
You can even see Saturn now with the naked eye, which is crazy,
Yeah.
and Mars, but Jupiter's looking pretty bright, but Venus is out of this world, spectacularly bright.
Yeah.
So something I feel is going on out there. I feel like our solar system is changing.
Now, in recent years, while we're on the topic, I've heard that like Jupiter has rings of debris around it, but they're
Yeah,
not thick enough that we notice it, right?
I've read
Well,
that.
somebody and I just recently heard about this, but somebody sent me an email. I can't think of their name right now. So sorry, but they were saying that Uranus has
Has
rings around it,
rings.
and they've known since 1977, and I'm like,
Like that feels like a Mandela effect.
totally feels like a Mandela
Uranus
effect to me.
rings around Uranus, rings of debris, like of
But I mean,
comets
like
and asteroids.
supposedly visible rings. That's the thing. Like Jupiter, I've seen Jupiter, and you can see the moons in a row when you're looking through the telescope at it, and
I
it's
never saw
amazing to.
rings on Jupiter. Did you?
What's that?
Did you see rings around Jupiter?
No rings, no,
Me neither.
no. So supposedly, and then I was like, well, let me look up some science fair projects. Nobody had rings around Uranus, only Saturn, and
So I think our solar system is changing.
yeah, definitely. So
Definitely.
that was new to me. I've asked a few
That's
people, and they're like,
fascinating.
"Well, I think there's one or two, or there's like two other planets besides Saturn." I'm like, "Really?
Are they
This
going to
is
say Neptune has rings too? This big blue marble, remember that? Beautiful Neptune.
it's amazing, though." So yeah,
Interesting.
it was then I looked it up, and I saw a video, and I was like, "What if Earth had rings?" And it was talking about how things would be
What
so
if we
much
get 'em?
different.
What if we
Because
get rings?
yeah, well, actually, they were saying it would be disastrous, of course, because like we wouldn't grow plants, like certain areas wouldn't get sunlight, and we wouldn't
Really?
be able to have satellites because the satellites are where the
Yeah, the
rings would
satellites
be.
would be just gone with,
Right,
rings of comet debris, or
right.
don't they
So
call that Tiamat? They say that the asteroid belt is actually the remnants of the big explosion between planets, including
yeah,
a big Earth called Tiamat.
yeah.
in the
And that
ancient
Earth is a
Sumerian.
piece of it, right?
Yeah, and
And the
Earth
moon is a piece of
and the
it.
moon is a piece of it,
And
supposedly.
that our moon's so big that that's the reason why we don't have rings around it, is because the moon, it actually coalesced into the moon that we have, what would
Well,
have been
isn't
the
that
rings.
handy dandy? And then
Yeah.
what about Jupiter's ring moons?
Right.
So having rings around Jupiter seems kind of odd that it also has like 16 moons, right?
Right, but when you think of, the moon is like a third the size of Earth. So when you think of the moons around the other planets, they're much smaller
They're
than the
much
actual
smaller.
planet, especially like Saturn.
Okay.
So it can have the rings without,
And moons.
and the moons, yeah. But
Okay.
like our moon's too big for that. That's why it's been pelted with what would have been the rings, I guess.
Oh yeah, and you see all those craters,
Yeah,
so there's a lot of evidence of it getting hit by a lot of things.
yeah. But it
Fascinating.
is pretty strange that it's always facing us. Like it's revolving perfectly to always face us the same way. That's just
Yeah, there's so
strange to
many
me.
strange things going on that the coincidences of them happening
Yeah,
are so phenomenal that it
yeah,
almost seems planned, like it was all
yeah,
set up,
yeah.
orchestrated.
Exactly. I totally agree. Yeah, and the fact that it's almost exactly the same size as the sun and all that, when with the eclipse and all that. Yeah.
Well, I just heard a fact the other day, and who knows, because you never know what's true and what's not true, right? Even the things
Hmm.
that they present as fact can be somebody's idea or theory. But something about in the Milky Way galaxy, there being 400 billion suns with planets. So out of the 400 billion suns with a bunch of planets spinning around them, there's going to be quite a few that are in the Goldilocks zone where life can sustain,
Yeah, definitely.
just in our one little piece of the universe called the Milky Way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
got to be lots out of the 400 billion, I would imagine.
That was for me when I saw the Hubble deep field image where they took
Yeah,
a little spot of the sky that looked like it was just black, and they left the shutter open for like 17 days or some
yep.
ridiculous amount of time, and then it came back with that incredible looking image. And
Gazillions of galaxies.
yeah, and what looks like it's riddled with stars are actually galaxies,
They're
and I'm like,
galaxies. They're not stars. They're gazillion galaxies.
and then I realized I'm like, it's actually harder to believe that we're the only
We are
thing
so not
around.
alone. We are
There's
so not alone.
and think about it. We've never been anywhere where we don't find life. Anywhere we go and explore, we find life. Even like there's like these caverns with no openings that hollowed out
Yeah.
spaces in the rocks, and there's these living organisms that don't use sun. They use
Yeah.
chemosynthesis rather than
There's life, like
yeah.
miles under the
We
earth,
can't
boiling water.
yeah.
There's
Think
life.
about it as a kid, you're digging, you always see an ant or an earthworm or something. You can't ever get away from a bug or a plant or something that's living.
Yeah.
It's just
They
teeming
find-
with life.
Do you remember those little shrimp things that wound up on the space station on the window outside? And they said that there were like shrimp life forms on the
Yeah.
outside of the space station. And they're like, that either came off of a Cape Canaveral rocket, I doubt it, or a passing comet had life in its water that
Yeah.
hit the space station with little tiny microscopic shrimp
Yeah.
in space.
It's just everywhere.
It's everywhere. Life is
Life
everywhere.
is everywhere. Yeah, I
Well, you
agree.
know what? If life is God and God is life, then yeah, it makes sense that life is everywhere.
Totally.
Totally.
Totally, yeah. Great discussion. I'm going to go check out the sky and see if I can see any of our friends out there tonight.
And send them love and say you won't be afraid if they're good and they come to help us, then we won't be afraid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the Stephen Greer message. We don't have to call the baddies, but I don't believe there's any bad aliens out there waiting to annihilate us anyway.
Right. Lots of love and light to everyone in the chat and watching later. And thank you again, Eileen, for our
Thank you.
first debut. Power of One. It's fun.
Power of
Happy
One,
2020.
2020. Peace.
We'll see. See you guys next week. Peace.
Bye.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.